Hi, Julie Jones from SSP Performance, Smarter, Stronger, Better Mindset Training, here with this week's Mindset Made Simple Tip of the Week, brought to you by Game Day Sportswear, easy for me to say. This week, we're talking about focusing on what we can see, looking ahead, making progress when what's in front of us isn't all that clear. Well, I was driving the other night and it was raining. It's been a beautiful fall here. We've had very little rain. In fact, the earth, I'm sure, was like, yes, rain. Well, I wasn't yes rain because I'm driving in my dad's van and the windshield didn't seem like it was clear and it was dark and sort of, just yucky. The road lanes or the lines on the road seemed really faded. And then I thought, well, maybe it's just my eyesight that's fading. The windshield wouldn't get clear. And I thought, well, maybe it's just the glare from my progressive lenses. But I kept looking for the defrost button and trying to get things going in this car that's not mine. And it wasn't comfortable. You know what it's like driving in crappy weather. But then I stopped and thought for just a second. I was like, you know what? I'm trying to make this a perfect picture in front of me, looking for all these things that I need to do in order to see better. Now, of course, I've got to have the windshield wipers on to clear the windshield. But the truth of it is, I could see everything I needed to get where I was going. All I needed to do was either follow the road, which I could see because I have headlights, or the guy in front of me, and those lights, I can see those. I mean, I didn't have to see all the way down the road to know that if his brake lights are on, I need to stop, or whatever the situation in front of me was. I had everything I needed in order to make steady progress, but it wasn't comfortable. It didn't seem optimal. It wasn't great. And we think about it, this happens to us all the time. How often in life, in training, in competition, do we wish that we didn't have this rainy drive that we're going through? We wish we had a really clear plan. We wish we had really clear idea of what was going to happen. But the truth of it is we rarely have clear visibility. We work in uncertainty all the time. That's life. Life is uncertain. And we wish we're trying to find windshield wipers and find defrosters and find all the tools to make it better and, the fastest way possible. And we don't pay attention to what we do have. We don't pay attention to what we can see. We don't pay attention to what we really need to just keep making steady forward progress. Because that is what wins the race in the end. And we know that, but that's not comfortable. The same sort of thought process showed up on Monday. So this was Sunday night. I'm driving. Monday, I'm at a high school, North Ridgeville High School. We do a leadership program for student athletes there. And I give them a bag of supplies. And I said, okay, you have 8 minutes to build a system with this bag of supplies to move an object from here to here with this set of rules. Okay? They opened up the bag and they're like, are you kidding? How are we going to do this? Well, that's the whole idea. We've got to have someone as a leader. We've got to have an engineer. We've got to communicate. The whole idea is to make them have difficult conversations, to have everybody have input, to have somebody lead and make decisions with this little bit of equipment to get this object from here to here. That's all they needed to do. And they were going through, and 4 minutes in, I'd throw in a storm, take away something, or make the distance from where they have to travel just a little bit further. And everybody's like freaking out. Oh, we don't have what we need. We don't have what we need. And we spend time thinking about what we don't have. And then with about a minute and a half left, I gave them a foot of tape, like the blue painter's tape. And they're like, yes. Like they saw me actually pulling it out of her, like, she's going to give us tape. She's going to give us tape. And so they stop and they wait for the tape. And they think that this tape is going to be the end all be all to fixing this problem to get the object from here to here with all the rules. So they get the tape and oh my gosh, they're so excited and they change their progress, and they change their ideas, and they just almost throw the baby out with the bathwater, if you will, with the idea that they had, whether it was moving it with the string or whatever else they had. They use the tape because they think that that is what they needed. They didn't think they had enough, and they get the tape, and yes, the tape changed their mindset. And yes, we think that's a good thing, right? Like, okay, infuse some energy, but really their resources changed a little bit, but what really changed was their perception. And this time, I don't know that it was in the right direction. We think, oh gosh, we got a boost in our mindset. Our mindset is more positive now, and we've got energy. Well, that's a good thing. And yeah, it is. They could have used the tape and stuck with their original plan, but most of them didn't. And guess what? That tape didn't help any of them complete the project. In fact, I think it set them back. It stopped them from having the hard conversations that they were having about what they were doing with what they had, which I am certain was enough to do the job because I made up the whole project to begin with, right? But the bottom line, the bit of tape didn't fix the problem. It fixed the way they looked at it, but they didn't realize that it really didn't need fixing from the beginning. Could it have helped? Yes. Was it everything they needed? No. Because what they needed was right in front of them. They just couldn't see it because it seemed too rainy. When we focus on what's missing, and that's what they were doing until they saw the tape, and they're like, yes, the tape, our brain shifts into a threat state. And when that happens, we know that our attention narrows, our creativity drops, and our energy goes toward protecting instead of performing. So they were in a, oh my gosh, state of mind, and they were so focused on what they didn't have that they didn't realize that what they had could work. They could build a system. They had enough. When we anchor our attention on what's visible, what's in front of us, what's controllable and actionable, we enter a challenge state, and that's totally different than that protective state. Obviously, it improves our energy, it helps our efficiency, it increases it, and it aids in our decision making. We're like, hey, I got all this stuff. I can drive. I can see far enough in front of me. I don't need to pull over and get underneath a bridge and put my hazards on. I'm good. I'm moving forward. This is supported by Lazarus and Folkman's cognitive appraisal theory. We talked about this before. It tells us that it's not the situation itself that is really what makes the difference. It's how we interpret it. That's what determines our success. So if we look at this bag of supplies as everything we need, then we're going to be more successful than if we think we don't have, there's no way. There's no way that, oh, she was holding out. She's giving us a tape. Now that's what we need. That's the difference. We can add in some motor learning research, and we find that constraints-led approach shows that working within limits, like imperfect weather or missing gear on certain roles, those things can actually enhance our adaptability and our creativity. It took me back to a conversation I had with my high school cross-country coach, Peggy Stitz. She was great. Also, Tom Redding, just in case he might be watching any of these. But Peggy said at one point, she said, I wasn't feeling well. I was not feeling well at all, whatever. And she's like, you're going to have a great race today. You don't think you have everything you need, but you do. You're going to have a great race today. Sometimes when we don't feel our best, we actually perform better. We'll get into that in another tip. But the bottom line was she was right, of course. I ran really well that day. Not that I was some great cross-country runner, but the bottom line was that I didn't think I had what I needed. I was very short-sighted, but I had everything I needed because I had trained, I was ready, I was hydrated, I had stretched, whatever, all the things that I really needed to run were there. I just didn't feel good. And as I got started, I started to feel better, and action and doing what I could and managing what was in front of me turned into step after step after step after step in a pretty good time. So the translation is that we don't need perfect condition, we need presence. We need to be able to see what's in front of us so that we can use what's in front of us to our advantage. So when things feel murky, which they do a lot, whether it's pressure or our schedule, we don't know what the path forward is, we have to ask ourselves, what can I see clearly right now? And then we act on that. Because if we can act on that, we get one step further, and then we get one step further, and we get one step further, and all of a sudden we're at the destination that we're driving through in the rain. And it's really that simple. I knew the tape wasn't going to save the problem. It wasn't going to save the thing. But I was excited to see if maybe they could add it to what they were doing, and maybe we could get the object from here to there. But the bottom line was they couldn't see that what was in front of them clearly enough to understand they didn't need more. sometimes the illusion of more makes us forget that we're already working with what we need. I was just talking to my football coach buddy today, JD Brookhart, and we were talking about different football programs and how they think they need more and more and more and more and more. And as we start to chase the more, we forget that we actually have to do the work, because what we have doesn't matter if we're not going to do anything with it. Like, that's a great reminder for us. So when we feel stuck, and I handed them more tape, it changed their energy for a minute, but it ultimately didn't solve the problem. It turned into a quick and easy solution that didn't help in the end. So maybe when we're stuck, instead of giving us more resources or trying to gather more resources, we need to change our perspective and take a look at all the tools that are built in, that are practiced, that are part of our culture or whatever it is, and we need to really walk with those and dive into those. Because what do we already have that we're not using, or what's the next small action we can take with what's right in front of us? It goes back to what Teddy Roosevelt said years and years and years ago. Do what you can with what you have where you are. And if we're going to throw in great people, great Americans, let's add in Martin Luther King Jr. when he says, you don't have to see the whole staircase. We just have to take the first step. I was never going to see all the way to my dad's house. I can't. It's too far away. But if I can see what's in front of me just enough, whether it's raining or not, I know how to drive. I know how to steer. I know how to use the accelerator and the brake. I know how much distance to leave, particularly in certain situations. I know all these things. And instead of focusing on what I couldn't see, if I focused on what I can get there. I have everything I need. When we start to look and act as if we need more, we aren't focused on the process. We aren't present. And it doesn't help us. There's always going to be something more that we think we need. But ultimately, when we're looking at more, we're wasting what's right in front of us. So rain or not, if we focus on what's in front of us, we have what we need to move forward. And that can help lead us to success. So today, as you're looking around and something's not clear, maybe just change your perspective and dial back in on what you do have. And check to see if you're using that optimally. And if you're not, make an adjustment, or ask, what can we do with what we have? Because if we can do something, it moves us one step further to wherever it is we're going. And that's the direction we want to go. So if you'd like to talk about this or anything else related to mental performance, juliej@ssbperformance.com. And have a great day or not. The choice is yours. See you next week.